Hello, everybody. Welcome to Good News in Parks, the show that brings park and rec directors together on our stage and in the audience to interact, ask questions, share thoughts, and recognize great work. I'm Anne-Marie Spencer, and I'm your co-host along with Jody Adams, and we're excited to have you here. We do hope that you'll interact with us and our panel in a variety of ways today. First, we'll be asking additional questions of our panel at the end of the show, and those questions come from you. So you'll notice a Q&A logo at the bottom of the Zoom window there. So please click it and submit your questions to our panel throughout the show as you think of them. Also, we're going to launch 2 polls during the show, and your answers are critical to help us share what's happening across the industry. So please respond to those when it's time so that your voice can be heard. We send out a survey after the show, and we use your feedback and ideas to shape future episodes so that the show remains relevant, up to the minute, and meaningful across our diverse audience. It's not a long survey, but your input is important. The survey also helps us to coordinate your information so that we can send CEU certificates of completion to those who desire them. At the end of the show, we're going to share the email address those certificates will originate from, so you can be sure to whitelist that address on your mail server. And finally, we need you. We thank you for the great feedback that you guys have sent about the show and love it that it's connecting so many amazing people to the field to discuss and share. So let's grow the network. If you like the show, we would love it if you would share it with your team, grow the movement, and pass along all the good news in parks. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jody to introduce our panel today, and let's get this ball rolling.
Absolutely. Anne-Marie, thank you so much. We are so excited to be with you today. And let's talk about some national news perspective. Today, involving our Parks and Recreation field. This is a shout out to our Gulf Coast city, counties, parishes, and special district departments who are standing in the way of Hurricane Laura. Stay safe, hang in there, we're with you, and we are thinking about you. So again, please stay safe and take care of yourselves. The latest research out, we want to bring you up on some trend news and research that has been completed. The latest research on parks and playgrounds during the COVID-19 virus. University of Vermont has determined by research that Americans over 12 years old of age can experience deep depression during the virus. And they have created the analysis of over 50 million tweets that says that parks are making and helping people be happier. What is that report? That report is actually out of the happiness score for national moods. So there is a report out now from this virus that we all can use data-wise. The second part of that is when they have actually gone to a park or been to a playground, that happiness can last over 4 hours. So that's a good news because we want them to keep coming back and use our parks. So just to know that, and our playgrounds. University of Pennsylvania, on the community end, they have now finished a study during the pandemic here, and now it shows that parks and playgrounds also improve the community's mood during the global pandemic and crisis. So we have that for the field. Please let us know if you need additional information. And now it's on to our esteemed panelists today for our show. Mike Shull, General Manager of Los Angeles, City of Los Angeles, California, Recreation and Park Department. He's on the board of directors for the City Parks Alliance and also the administrator of Social Equity Partnership with the LA 28 Olympics. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
You bet. Shonnda Smith, Director of City of Mobile, Alabama, Parks and Recreation Department, member of the NRPA Program Committee 2017-2020. Wow, you have given a lot of time, Shonnda. Thank you. Member of the NRPA Magazine Advisory Board. Shonnda, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Michael McCarthy. Oh, Michael, Executive Director of Glenview, Illinois Park District, President-elect of the American Academy of Parks and Recreation Administrators, past chair, National Revenue Management and Directors Development School, of Board of Regents. Michael, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's go, gang. Let's go ahead and jump right into our questions for you. That's why we have this show. We want to hear about your good news, but also your approaches to the field. What does your department new normal look like in staffing? What adjustments have you made? But not only that, are you redesigning your positions? What does that look like? Mike Shull, let's start with you.
Thanks, Jody. Yeah, we certainly have taken on a lot of different roles with the pandemic. With all the concerns we have over budgets and furloughs and all the things that's happening across the nation, I mean, there's been so many good things that's come out of this. We here in LA are, one thing about parks in LA, we're also the sheltering arm for the city during emergencies under our city charter. So we play a different role in a lot of cases throughout the year, whether it's a fire or whatever. But since March, we've been operating shelters for the people experiencing homelessness, and 24 shelters of over more than 1,000 residents in our rec centers. We've never done anything like that before. All being managed through our emergency operations center, which are made up of recreation staff, aquatic staff, maintenance staff, throughout across the board. So we've been taking on a lot of different roles on our staffing, throughout the pandemic. We're winding down now on our shelters. We offered, and continue to offer childcare for most, for our first responders, and doing things around that we would traditionally do. But it's been a 24-hour operation, 7 days a week. So staff of, it's the resilience of the staff in our department and across the nation. It's just been amazing to see. We're getting ready to begin a new role in providing alternative learning sites for our school district. The schools are not going back, and we have a lot of low-income neighborhoods here in Los Angeles. And by the way, I'm not in Los Angeles. Not that green. I wish it was, but anyway, I'm joining you from the banks of the Allegheny River in Pennsylvania. I'm visiting family, but
hey, we love that background.
yeah, it's real. It's not a Zoom backdrop, but just opening up. We're gonna at 50 rec centers across the city. We're gonna open up our rec centers from 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. And wow. I'll talk more about that in our funding, some of our discussions later. But it's it's not necessarily a new role. I mean, it's more daycare, childcare type operation, but we're setting it up so that those kids that are the most vulnerable in our city. We have a lot of homeless children in our city. That they can come to the rec center and be there safely. We're working with our school district. We're going to give them lunch. We're going to feed them all day, and we're going to provide them with Wi-Fi and a place to that they can actually sit and do their online learning and have supervision while their parents can go to work and do the things that they need to do. And I just see that as a really positive role that parks agencies around the country can play, to be there for those most needy families, because it's I know how difficult it is for my family, and it's we have resources, and there's so many that don't. So I think there's just a lot of positive things that's been done. We're just coming off a summer camp program. We had 8,500 kids registered for a 6-week program. The need is there. The need is there, and that's actually a fraction of what we normally do. But COVID is, getting a little bit in our way with our, the number of kids that we can have. But a lot of great things, a lot of new roles. But recreation and parks professionals have just been fabulous. I mean, I did a call yesterday with my team, and it's hard to put into words, to be honest with you. I mean, about the great things that parks professionals are doing across this country during this pandemic. But I'll stop there and allow you to move on, but just excited to be part of such an amazing organization.
Well, Mike, I mean, again, you are in the midst, and the key is families and children are most impacted by schools and parks. We're the largest entities affecting our communities. So again, you're feeding that role on both spectrums. So thank you so much. Shondra, let's go ahead and go to Mobile. What's going with Mobile?
Definitely. We are doing a lot of what Mike talked about, but it's our first time being that engaged in a lot of the services that we're providing. And so it's really us looking at ourselves in a different way and how we can assist. And so we have the schools that we're trying to connect with on how we can be a secondary center for at-risk kids that need a location. We've always provided meals, and so now we're trying to continue like we did during the summer. We provided breakfast and lunch, and so now we're trying to shift to do lunch and dinner, that every child still can get that in the schools. I mean, at the centers, as they are coming through in the afternoons, if they're doing virtual school or if they're at our location. We have been seen as a shelter site for American Red Cross during, hurricane season. However, we had never been really looked at as a homeless location. And so now we are assessing centers that are closer to the downtown area to be able to house COVID patients, actually, where, patients who are homeless who don't have a location to go to and, go through their quarantine. And so we're looking at what centers can actually provide that service and shutting that down and allowing them to have that access. When you ask about positions, I believe one of the things that everyone was forced into was virtual programming. Mm-hmm. And not knowing how this is going to evolve, we are putting together like a virtual team. And although we're opening our centers, their role will be to still create virtual content. Because what we're finding is there are a lot of people who are stir crazy and want to get out and are willing to come out and still participate in the community centers. There's still a lot that don't want to come out and want to stay at home. And I would say our social media has blown up during this time, and we see that we get a lot of feedback from doing the virtual training, virtual classes, especially doing the senior services. And we had a very large senior engagement, and we are constantly engaging. We do drive-bys, we do quality of life calls, and so we are calling seniors and checking in on them and making sure they're okay. We're doing ice cream socials. We're saying come by and pick up popcorn, and so we're trying to think of ways to really still engage a lot of our seniors, because we know a lot of them are on their own and look for that social engagement, and so they very much are looking into still keeping that engagement going on. So it's like we are ever changing, and it's pushing the staff to stay up on what's going on and being creative.
I'm so glad you're addressing that with seniors. Over the last 3 episodes, we've had several of our colleagues ask about senior engagement, and you just gave a full dissertation of exactly what needs to happen. So thank you very much for sharing that. And one other thing, I saw on your Facebook page, because I'm a big fan of all 3 of you, I saw where you're even asking the public to step up and say, if you've got a certain talent, we sure would love you with our virtual programming. So I thought that was very innovative, of saying, hey, we're opening our doors. We don't know it all, but hey, if you've got a talent, come and see us.
Yes.
Very innovative, very innovative. Okay, Michael, what is going on in Glenview?
Well, Jody and Anne-Marie, thank you for having me on this panel, and to be on with panelists like Michael and Shonnda. It's a true honor. This is preparing for this was so exciting because it really helps you focus on the benefits, the good news, which we're all about in our profession. And for all the professionals around, the country and leading and delivering services under these difficult times, I just want to say thank you to all of them, my team as well. I also want to put out my thoughts and prayers to those that are being affected by the hurricane, and also the family of Jacob Blake and the folks up in Kenosha, Wisconsin right now. All of us are leading in some really tough times, working in some tough times, but we found ways to create benefit in our communities, putting out good results. It's really that commitment to how to help heal our communities and deliver on the social equity, the health and wellness, the environmental impact. And I've seen it firsthand here in Glenview. Early on in Glenview, I made a commitment to my staff, recommitted to them that I was going to be honest, transparent, and compassionate, empathetic through this process. We didn't have the playbook. None of us had a playbook on how to deal with this pandemic to this length. And I really wanted to be focused on the staff taking care of them, letting them know that they're supported, that they have the resources to get through their own personal challenges, even though myself and everybody else on this panel are going through their own personal challenges of the pandemic. We established guiding principles early on that were going to help us make decisions. So we really refocused on that. We looked at the legal authority, focus on safety, the workforce, our financial resources, cost recovery versus, the customer base, and finally the benefit to the community and the individual. We set up really 4 stages of how we were going to move through this process. It was about, re-employing our staff because we've all had those challenges, reopening our facilities, rebuilding our community, our organization at the same time. That, 52% of our revenues here in Glenview come from user fees. So with the shutdown, that was devastating. But also we looked in phase 4, recreating ourselves along the way, coming up with new ways to serve. And we're seeing that every day. We went from 300 staff that were laid off from our part-timers and 50% of our full-time workforce to really only having 3 employees out that are on furlough right now. So our new normal has been one that's really flexible, nimble, laser focused on safety, repurposed positions, had staff to take on new responsibilities, increased our training, and increased our communication with each other. Zoom has helped with that. Video, trainings. We've had programmers working as camp leaders and, for our assisted e-learning initiatives that are helping out school districts. Even we had commissioners riding mowers as well as superintendents to try to get us through this. We're also reinvesting in our technology and repurposing positions in IT, which, everything's about technology right now, providing those services as quickly as focused as possible. So in a lot of ways, our new normal has brought our team closer together, even though we're remote or we're wearing masks when we're sitting, working side by side. It's a team culture that we're all in it together, and we're all in it to try to make it better every single day.
Michael, you brought up so many important points about the internal workings of your staff and taking care of yourselves and making sure that you keep ramping up your training, because sometimes that's the first thing to go. I want to congratulate you on that because you're really addressing it head on and you're staying up with it. You're not just doing it for one-time shot for the good of the moment. You're doing it for long term. So way to go on that. And again, that is addressing some of the questions and comments from our audience from past shows. So thank you very much. Second question, panelists. How are you engaging your department with the community of creative strategies in park and community facility design or improvement during the pandemic? Because again, that's a challenge because we're not in person always, but how are you engaging your community in your design and improvement creative strategies during the pandemic? And let's go with Shondra.
Definitely. It's funny when you ask this question, I'm thinking of one of the ones we just did. We are trying to redo a playground. And normally when you're doing community engagements, we're always engaging adults. And I said, this time, I don't want it for adults. We need to get kids out here. And so we actually did it at the park. We did it outside under the pavilion. We made sure that we asked them to come with their mask on, a social distance. And we had some very engaging activities that would allow them to do some individual work. So we presented to them some different pictures of some samples of some different playgrounds that they may be interested in. And then the consultant gave them a drawing piece of paper that they can actually draw what they would love to see the playground look like. And then they had to present it back out to the group. So it allowed them to be social distance, but still do it. So it was like family pods that worked together. And so that went very well. And then we are realizing, as Michael said, we have had to teach internal staff on how to use Zoom and technology, and it's funny as you get on and have to teach people mute and how to how to share their screen, and you're doing all of that. We have also had to share that with the public. And so For example, our advisory committees, they're of all ages. And so we have people that are not as tech savvy. And so we're having to do trainings with them on how to do the Zoom and how to do the Microsoft Teams and allowing 20 to 30 minutes of just learning. So most of the time our first meeting is just learning the information so that they can be comfortable, but also being aware that not everyone have technology. So introducing them to the conference call piece of that. So that everyone can be engaged. Really to go back to the seniors as well, which is a group that we have had to be more engaged with than the other groups because they're not coming out at all. We've done a whole lot of trainings for them on how to do Zoom because we do Zoom bingo and we do a lot of that. So we had to actually teach them how to do Zoom and how to do the conference calls and still be engaged. And so we are finding that Zoom is the perfect way for us to engage and really doing it outside and making sure we teach social distance and showing them there's a way that we can still engage that's making sure we're safe and following proper protocols.
Not only engagement, but education. You are teaching and sharing what are the best methods to engagement. So way to go. Thank you so much, Shonnda. Michael McCarthy.
All right, well, our engagement, there's not a lot of projects that are moving forward right now. We are building or renovated new ice center, so that has been moving forward. But our approach in Glenview has really been centered on always on community engagement and helping guide our decisions and actions, and it really has been focused on that throughout this whole pandemic. We early on we recognized with our neighboring community Northbrook that we needed to partner. The village government of Glenview and Northbrook, the park districts of both, the libraries, the hospital, the school districts all came together and formed a task force very early on, even before the shutdown. Really have a unified approach, and it really has been beneficial. We meet weekly to really talk about what's happening, how each of the entities are moving through this whole pandemic, and how we can have a unified approach, how we can support each other through this. It also has expanded our ability to listen to the community, also reach the community in different means. Everyone has their own mailing list that they have and that they follow. So with the unified approach, our message has gotten out there quite well. We've worked closely with the Chamber of Commerce and working with Youth Services, our Park Foundation, and the food pantry. We really listen to the partners that are running the food pantry in our community, hearing early on that they had great need for better drop-off service and better pickup service. So we provided space for the food pantry for those drop-off and pickup so they could store. We also heard that there were so many families in need, and there was at that time where we had that food shortage, and we shifted our 18-acre 1920s farm park to really support 50 families throughout this whole pandemic. So we're feeding 50 families every week with over 20,000 pounds of fresh produce, 6,000 pounds of meat and eggs. We have, we're raising chickens and turkeys and
I love it.
Stuff that I never thought I would get into when I got into this.
This is fantastic.
But it has been a blessing to all those families that have a resource in addition to our farmers market. We've also gone through the approach with really looking at real data. We engage with surveys and webinars. The webinars have provided a lot of good feedback. But we did a statistically valid survey twice throughout this whole process that gave us, the attitudes and interests, what our two communities, what people would come back to, when they would come back to it, what was their priorities when it comes to safety. And that allowed us to figure out where to put our energy. If 20% of the people are only going to come back in the first 3 months, how many do you really need? What type of facilities? It helped us make our decisions on the number of aquatic facilities to open, the number of camp pods to create, the type of camp pods to create. So that feedback was instrumental. We also have been listening to the community by trying to engage them on recognizing our hometown heroes and, featuring, the folks that are in healthcare, the first responders, grocery workers, delivery folks. And even along the way, they've recognized our park staff, our farm staff, our animal care staff. So we've just really found some new ways to connect with everyone.
Well, it even sounds like you have really engaged on going back to basics, and you've really dug in on, to be that innovative with your farm park is so dramatic. Just an attitudinal change. Let's go back to the basics of life, and you do need to create your own produce, and you need to share it. So very innovative, Mike.
It was definitely a back to basics for a lot of things, but my staff, I've been so proud, like I said early on, I'm so proud of their creativity and their willingness to step forward with ideas that they can just run with. But even the camp pods, I see all the other communities. It reminds me of when I went through camp and in the playground programs. It has been back to basics. Yeah. It's been really refreshing to see us go back to what really matters and simplify things in a lot of ways.
That's right. Boy, no kidding. That's what keeps coming out on the show, is so many people are going back to those basics. Michael Shull, Mike, tell us what's going on with Los Angeles in the engagement field.
First of all, for my staff that's listening, I want you to get in contact with Michael. I want a farm park. So let's get some turkeys and chickens. So we might be calling you about that, Michael. I just love that idea.
Sharon,
yeah, it's, I think we've got, to be fair, I think we've got ways to go on, I think we've been doing all the virtual things. And I think the virtual connection is obviously the pandemic. Again, another good thing about that is that it has expanded. Everybody's had to become more, involved with doing, these types of meetings, Zoom meetings, Google Meets, and, all the Teams. And I've got more meeting software now on my computer, it's, and it's just become easy. And I think Michael or Shonnda said it. It's, the communication has actually improved, I think, amongst my team. And I really like that part of it. And it's, we're starting now to have, virtual meetings with communities, and it's becoming easier. And I think that's going to last. I don't think that's going away. I think, we're going to move in that direction.
That's right.
Because it takes a lot of resources, to go out and set up these meetings and to, to do all that, and the boards and displays and all those things. I think people, because of the pandemic, are now, the average person is able to do that. So I think that's been a huge positive in this, because we have a lot of projects, and a lot of things happening that it'll make us easier to get input on those projects and, get the community's input. But I think, just we're still looking at some ways to better do that through surveys and things like that, and, be able to get that information out there. We have, we've started an exercise. We're not real happy with how we get signups or registrations. We can do it online, but now we've just started and hired a consultant to help us with an app, to put out a Rec and Parks app for the city. We need to be able to communicate better. I think we're going more towards contactless government, and to make it easier, to be able to communicate more effectively, to target your communications. So we're going to take what's happening with this pandemic and try to bottle that up and put it into an app so that we can make it easier for the public to participate. Because in a lot of ways, it's going to take a while to get the public back into, an open registration for, a program once it's safe. I think just naturally people are going to slowly come back into those things, as they're still concerned. So when it's safe to come back, but we just want to be ready for that and be able to provide, those resources, to register for a program on your phone or to do whatever, on your computer, but just to make it easy so you don't have to come into the facility to do it. And then even more, with as busy as everybody is and trying to work and take care of your kids and do all those things, we're going to need to do stuff like that. And on the capital side, I'll just say that we've taken a little bit of risk, but we're we've decided that, you know, we had a pretty robust capital improvement program, and it was with special funds, meaning it's either grant funds or development fees that we've collected. It's money that can only be used for capital. It can't be used for, you know, operations. So we've decided to put all that and try to bid and award $100 million worth of projects this fiscal year. And we've never done that before. That, because we're doing that, you know, that outreach is even more important. We're gonna, you know, we're looking at different softwares, different ways for people can give input on projects. But most of our parks, although our parks are open in Los Angeles, they're, most of our assets are not open. So it's, the time is really now. You know, if we have the funds, I'm just trying to advance, you know, the projects to get them moving. I also think the bidding climate and the financial climate for us doing that is probably, you know, some of our projects have been coming prior to COVID were double, you know, what we thought they were going to be. And now we're starting to see those prices come down. So I'm trying to get them out the door quicker. But yeah, it's, you know, but that effective communication with them. So I'd just say that we're still looking at a lot of ways to get input, but that, you know, the new app that we're working on for LA Parks and, you know, the virtual, you know, platforms that are available to the public and to us have been really, really helpful.
You know, Mike, this is so important because really, especially in the large urban areas, we have every delineation of geographics on this show, and we do that on purpose every show because of different populations that everyone serves. I just think this is going to be really important because this app could probably be used by any size community as you develop it. So thank you for getting into this at a very high level because you're serving millions and you have such a huge system. But boy, I think this is going to serve small departments too, maybe when you finish this up.
Yeah, I do, Jody. And I'll just say that it, you know, it's what we've been trying to preach here is that we might be a little slow right now with things being open and programs running, but we're going to come out of this a better organization. You know, it's going to be a better public organization as a result of this. So it's just asking people to be patient with that. But I think it's really important, you know, that you look to use this time, and there have been so many positives that, you know, that for all of us, that I think we will be a better organization.
Well, that's the theme. We've gone back to basics, but we're also coming out of it better. And that's what we're seeing each episode of the actual directors talking about that. So appreciate you directing that and being so honest about that, all three of you. Let's go ahead and move into another segment of the show. And this is about polls. So Anne-Marie, back to you on the poll questions.
Great. Thanks, Jody. Yeah, this is, again, where we want to involve you, our studio audience. Our panelists can vote as well on this question, but we're going to launch a couple of polls today. So this is the first one. And what we want to know, you can vote for 3 here. So we want to know, as you're planning for the future, what are your top 3 concerns? Is it redesign of common areas and public spaces? Is it public awareness to keep the public safe, ensuring adequate recreational activities for vulnerable populations, youth activities and sports, creating sustainable sources of revenue, attracting, maintaining a sustainable workforce, food security and hunger prevention, or social justice and racial equality? And those are all really top issues there, but we want you to choose the top 3 that are really on your mind as you plan. And this is really important, everybody, because this is where not only we use this information to share out, but also we use it to inform future shows. So, you know, this helps us understand what's going on in your departments and helps us, you know, shape future shows so that we can continue to be relevant and helpful and share good news. So we've got a few people voting. We'll go ahead and give you about 10-15 seconds there to go ahead. I know there's some considerations here. There's a lot of choices, and again, they're all very important choices, but we want to give everybody the opportunity to vote in the poll. So we're going to go ahead and end that now and share it out with you guys. So it
Wow.
looks like, obviously, I mean, again, they're all really important, but sharing or creating sustainable sources of revenue, ensuring adequate recreational activities for vulnerable populations. And then it's really kind of a tie there. It looks like social justice, youth activities and sports, public awareness are all kind of tied right in there for that third place position. So thanks very much, everybody, for taking the time to vote on that one. And we're going to go ahead and move to our second poll question now. And this one, we're asking specifically about playground amenities. What percentage of your playgrounds are currently open? All of them, 75%, 50%, 25%, or none of them are open? And, you know, I know that there's some sort of variations in the numbers here. So just pick the one that's closest to yours. And what we want to do is, we mentioned earlier in the show the survey that we asked. We're going to have a special question in this show's survey. For those of you who are opening your playgrounds, we'd love for you to share kind of what that process is, one, to open them, and then two, to keep them open. So again, we can share that out with those in our audience who are wondering about that and wondering how to do that. Again, it's all about sharing and sharing good news. So for those of you who have been able to open them, we'd love to hear about how that works for you so we can share that information. So let's go ahead and end this poll now, and we'll share the results. And it looks like just over half or just under half the people who voted, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the number, 58% say all of them are open, and 29% say none of them are open. So really all ends of the spectrum there. So again, when you get that survey at the end of the show, if you could, for those of you who do have your playgrounds open, share that process out with us so that we can share that out with the team. So thank you very much. I do want to remind everybody real quick before we turn it back to Jody for our next panel question is please use that Q&A box to ask questions so that we can get to those at the end of the show. Jody?
Sounds great. Well, let's get into our third question. And our third question does really talk about our budgets, but it also, again, every one of these questions are coming from you, our audience. So as you're asking questions, please not only give us the questions that are of concern to you, but also when you receive your evaluations, make sure you put on there future topics because it's all important to us to keep relevant. Number 3, what outside resources are you examining to augment your budgets? We'll start with Michael.
Thank you, Jody. I think one of the words that you just said in your lead up to that question was relevant. I think that everything we do today has to be relevant. I think that, you know, Shonnda and Michael are talking about it within their agencies, finding new ways to serve their community so they're seen as essential. I think outside resources, internal resources, everything's on the table to try to find ways to augment your budgets. And I think the need is to not only do that now, but it's going to be in the future as well. We continue to work with our legislators, our local legislators, our county legislators, our state and federal legislators to really know what's going on and also leverage some of the changes that could happen within the CARES Act that's not providing much needed resources for local governments. Our state received CARES Act funds that was put out to the counties, and our county hasn't doled that out to all the entities within our county where other counties have. So we're consistently working with our county board representatives and our state legislators to try to figure that out. We're looking for non-traditional ways and traditional ways of partnerships. Our partnerships right now, we have 3 foundations that have been very supportive. Our Glenview Park Foundation has stepped up to the plate. Not only prior to the pandemic, they had committed $250,000 for renovation of our ice center and our Grove Museum, but they committed $50,000 right up front for leisureships for families in need to provide camp opportunities, rec in a box opportunities for families in need. And they just stepped up again for another $10,000 for families in need for our e-learning programs. We're, looking at our non-traditional partners. Our non-traditional ones are probably our competition. We have preschool and camp programs. So we recently just partnered with a childcare organization that's been around for 60 years. It serves our community, it does a tremendous job. They're our competition, but if we were going to provide these e-learning camp pods, we didn't have the ready-made workforce. We had some, but we didn't have them all. And they were able to survive through this process through achieving the PPP money, keeping their staff employed to get to the school year, and they had a ready-made workforce. So we recently just approved an agreement with them that is going to provide our staffing, and we're going to deliver services together. And it's such a unique way to think of it. A lot of times everything's on the table. We've looked at internally our no-mow areas. Outside of the 150 acres that we have that are Illinois Nature Preserve, we had 11 acres in our parks and our golf courses that were no-mow areas. And we doubled that immediately. And from the start of the pandemic, we saved $4,000. Doesn't seem like a lot, but every penny counts. Tonight, we're considering, our board's considering a donation from our youth affiliate organization that will donate up to $1 million. That will go towards offsetting the bond and interest on the new ice center. And we're looking at things like, making our own hand sanitizer, which we have been doing, making our own screen shields and using the talent of the staff that we have, upgrading our HVAC systems with the skilled workers that we have. But we're still looking with the state for, and federal, and thankfully the bill was signed for the Land and Water Conservation Fund, that hopefully those funds will continue to flow through our state and provide some much needed matching resources.
Well, and again, we hope to create a special edition down the road just to talk about the Land and Water Conservation Funds that you just mentioned. So, again, we're all in this together, but what's great is think about how many skills and how many talents are coming out of your staff of making sure that you're innovative and creative to get through this. You can get through anything. And we all know that it's there, but you got to have the leadership to pull it out and make sure and open up that they feel free to come forward and bring those talents forward. So excellent, excellent, Michael. Mike Shull, let's hear what Los Angeles is doing on creative resources and how you're dealing with your budgets.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's certainly it's certainly the biggest topic probably around the nation on budgets. But I'll just start by kind of piggybacking a little bit what Michael said on donations. It's really been people have really risen to the occasion in many ways. Some small, some large, but it's what I've noticed a lot is that when there's the identified need, people have just average people have really come out and helped a lot. Just quick story on our homeless shelters. As we began, we ramped up pretty quickly, and we had a little over 1,000 residents living in our rec centers.
Wow.
And we ran out of towels for showers.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we just did, and like overnight, the towels poured in. The Dodgers showed up with a truckload of towels, and
oh my gosh,
stuff like that. So there's there's just been a constant reaction to the need, which has been quicker than it's normally been. And our Los Angeles Parks Foundation has just been there every step of the way. We recently took a gift of almost $200,000 and were able to purchase these large fans for cooling, and we were able to do all these things that and we were able to purchase them through them, so we got them fast, and so that's been a huge help. And there's been numerous other donations. I could go on and on about it, but I think that and I'll again say what Michael said, what you said, Jody, is relevant. We need to stay relevant, and one way of doing that is taking on these new, maybe not a little bit non-traditional programs, but doing things that we can be able to figure out ways to fund the staff. I mean, I have a lot of part-time staff. And normally those part-time staff are used in recreational programs. Well, we're not running recreational programs. So, or a lot of them. And you know, we want to keep them employed. They need jobs. And, you know, some of them are what we call half-time employees. And if they don't get enough hours, they, you know, they lose their benefits. It's just been a, you know, nonstop exercise of trying to keep everybody busy. Well, yesterday, you know, the city council approved our plan for these alternative learning sites, and we got $10.3 million from CARES Act money, which is in addition to our budget. So that is huge for us, because now all these people who weren't working are now going to be able to. And most of the, you know, a lot of those are part-time staff. And so that's, CARES Act money has played a significant role in our sheltering and all of that. We've, I think we've spent a little over, probably approaching $20 million just on our sheltering programs here, you know, just reckon. We've been getting that money back. And now we're starting to even get approval in advance with the alternative learning sites. So CARES Act has been a big part of what we're doing. And then lastly, I'll just say that one of the reasons we wanted to move our capital program and try to, you know, move a lot of projects up that were funded that we weren't, you know, before we were trying to, you know, program or trying to get capital program, capital projects, you know, scheduled around where our different programs were running. You know, you can't just go in and renovate a rec center when there's a basketball, you know, you're trying to do it all in a way. Well, without these things running, all of a sudden we have all this huge opportunity to try to advance all the thing. Well, you know, all these projects. Well, and the reason why we went for, you know, $100 million bidding and awarding in one fiscal year is that if we get those projects awarded, those funds allow for staffing costs, but that has to be related to the projects. So now we're able to divert our general fund staff to these projects and to be able to, you know, to have that pay. So then it releases more general fund money that we can put back into the public. So that's playing a significant role, and a little different way of trying to, you know, get money into your, you know, for your staff. Of course, they have to be charging the projects and related to that.
Absolutely.
There's a way, there's a legal and safe way of doing that that's been helpful. But yeah, I think we've tried to do things, you know, with the, you know, just to be relevant with the summer day camps that we did, and now with the alternative learning sites. You know, and now we're, you know, actually, lastly, I'll say that last year we negotiated and finalized an agreement with the Los Angeles 28, you know, Planning Committee and the IOC, where $160 million is coming into over the next 8 years for recreational, for sports and fitness programs here in LA. And we developed an equity program around that to make sure that money got into the lowest income areas of the city, and those programs would be free. So we're trying to pull that money in, and then we're actually looking at different types of programs that, you know, that we wouldn't normally offer. Like, you know, and I think this has been another positive, is we're looking at non-traditional type sports and fitness things that we didn't used to do. Things like ping pong and things like, you know, track and field, you know, different javelin throwing. You know, we're gonna do all these things because you can safely do it. We can't do contact sports. So using those funds again to help us, and it'll start to bring the public back in. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But, you know, I mean, we're no different than anybody else. Our operational budget is concerned, but we're finding ways, you know, to mitigate it, you know, that I think are positive and are working.
Well, and you know, Mike, when you address that, you're rebooting. Luckily, I had the opportunity to work the 2012 Olympics in London. And I will tell you, I am aware that when you have Olympics, you leave legacy programs behind with the Olympics. And what you're doing and the way you're approaching it is one of the best ways I've heard through the social equity approach to make sure everyone is served. But I think it's very innovative too, on your first comments on this, addressing this situation. Think about it. Sometimes we don't ask. And when you asked for help on those towels, something so simple, but so important. I think sometimes we're so used to serving and making sure we do from our end and give, we forget people want to give to the park systems, and they want to make sure it gets out to the general public. So I think all these comments of talking about a social equity program, of feeding off of something like an Olympics. No, not everybody's going to host the Olympics, but there's other things that you host in your communities that can benefit the social equity aspect. So you've brought up a lot of good points here, that how you're retooling and reapproaching your budgets and how you're driving in new staff or realigning staff. So very, very good information. Thank you so much. Shondra, Mobile, I know you're doing innovative things with your budget. Like I mentioned earlier, you're asking the public to come forward even in your programming. Hey, if you got a talent, we've got a place. So Shondra, it's up to you.
Yes, I'm sitting here as a student. I'm listening to Mike and Michael, and I keep looking down because I'm trying to text. I'm like, I need to call them and ask this question because there's so much information that they've shared that I'm like, oh, we need to do that. That's great. So I can imagine the other practitioners are on here. Unfortunately, I'm not able to take notes, so I'm going to have to watch this again.
No problem.
Me too.
But we have done a lot of, and I don't know if other organizations had this. Mobile, when I started, I've been there almost a year, 2 years in January, and there were a lot of staff that were, you get a lot of part-time staff that are retired and come back to work. And so I will tell you, since May, I probably have had about 10 to 15 people resign or retire. And so we really sat back as people were leaving to really figure out, what do we want to do with these positions? Do we want to replace them? Do we want to combine? And so we've combined a lot of positions. And as we start talking about new programming, really trying to figure out what we want to do and how we want to bring them new people in. And so we've spent a lot of time with that. Very fortunate that we did not have to lay off anyone. We kept everyone working. We spent a lot of that time though, and this was and really what Mike said is, and Michael and Jody, is relevancy. And you know, a lot of people started to realize what we do. We have delivered over 15,000 meals to youth, but we've also delivered probably about double that to the seniors. And so we provide meals because we were doing a nutrition program, but once we shut that down, is how do we get these to their homes? And so we were delivering shelf-stable meals every Tuesday. And so it's really starting to assess all of that we do and how long can we continue to do this. But also, we were also reached out to help organizations that did not have the ability to deliver meals to their constituents. And so we stepped up with that. And so it made my staff very proud that they became a go-to, you know, before where they felt like they were not seen as an adequate department, where people were like, hey, can you do this? And they were like, yes, we got this. And so they felt very much appreciated. Our biggest part too is starting to partner more and with other organizations that we have not partnered with in the past, even as doing events, not being in a silo and trying to figure out other organizations that come to the table. Spending time with other departments, even just within the city, to figure out what they do to use some of the strategies to be able to assist in what we do. And so that has made us look at things a different way. It's like, we don't have to do everything on our own. Who else should we bring to the table so that we can split this cost? I'm going to say again, I'm a student here because I'm hearing like the money from the CARES Act, and I'm like, well, how do how do you access that? And it's being aware of other resources out there that you really don't know how to access. And that's something that we've been trying to look into recently, is grants and things like that we had not in the past sought after. So we are having to relook at a lot of what we're doing.
That is fantastic. Again, very innovative. But I think it's good because, again, you're going back to really analyzing before you make a move. You're looking at it really close. You're not just, oh my gosh, we have a position open, we need to get it filled ASAP. You're really taking care to look at it thoroughly. Great job, you guys. I tell you what, we're moving to one of the most favorite parts of our show. And this kind of was one of the first segments we ever came up with when we were looking at offering this show. So Anne-Marie, I'm going to turn it over to you for recognition.
Absolutely. And Jody is absolutely right. This is totally one of our favorite parts of the show. So much fun because, we realize that, boy, we're all rock stars and we always get some rock star guests on here, but it takes more than one person. And if we didn't have our teams with us, things would be tough. So this gives us an opportunity. It's called Good News in Parks, about great people. And we always ask our guests to share just some information about their great folks. So we're going to take it away, and we're going to start with you, Mike.
Thanks, Anne Marie. Boy, I tell you, first I'll just say that this was not an easy choice for me. I could highlight so many parts of our department that I'm just so proud of. I mean, I just, again, hard to put into words. But I chose our emergency operations staff, which is led by an individual called, his name is Jimmy Kim, and it is, and you can see in the background there, it's a mobile type trailer operation, but it's semi-permanent. We literally just built that 2 months before the pandemic started. We just opened it, and thank goodness that we did. But it's as I stated earlier, our mandate here in the city is that under the city charter, we are the sheltering and welfare arm for the city. So we take emergency response very seriously, because we really do it all the time. Being attacked by some bees, sorry.
Real life. It's real life.
And anyway, it's so we think we were well trained as a result of the folks that you see in the background, but they have been our backbone. They have been the heart of everything that we've been doing through this pandemic, and have really kept our staff organized, and kept our safety protocols organized, and kept the PPE supplies coming, and the planning of everything that we have done has gone through this group of individuals here. They work 24/7 and have been since March. So they work in 12-hour shifts, and they're essentially 4 or 5 days on, and then they're off a couple of days, but they're working around the clock, and still are. And I just so extraordinarily proud of them. I mean, they've really, as a result, I mean, Rec and Parks in LA, amongst the other departments, have really stood out. And to be honest with you, a lot of the emergency operations around the city have leaned on us because of how prepared this group of individuals are in the background. And I want to, if they didn't exist, I'm not so sure I would be on your show today. They've made my job so much easier. They're just so extraordinarily well organized and trained, and just super proud of them. I'm thrilled to highlight them today. I just cannot say and share enough love for each and every one of them. But I will say again that these people that you see here these are recreation staff. These are maintenance staff. They're just been reassigned to do this new role. And they were trained to do it, but we've never had to have it put into this level of operations. So they've been there and have never wavered. They're resilient. They care. They're proud, and they certainly have put the heart of this department on full display, because they've just been nothing but amazing.
That is awesome. Kudos to you for, first of all, recognizing this as a department that was needed, and shifting some folks around. 12-hour shifts are not easy, so kudos to them as well. And those of us here at Good News in Parks also thank you and your team for all the hard work you're doing. It's just absolutely great. All right, Shonnda, tell us about the Mobile Parks and Rec team.
Yes, I'm with Michael. It was hard I'm like, how do I pick one group? And so I was like, how do we just do a modge podge of a little bit of every department and talk about some of the stuff that they have done? And I'm gonna go back to the word which we keep using is relevant. And what did we do during this downtime where we didn't have, programming, and we were a front-facing service? But we very much had to, we wanted to keep people on the payroll, and we did not lay off anyone, even our part-time staff, we kept them working. And so we did deep cleaning. We went in, and I was, the message was, when we open, people should come in with their mouths dropped, because they are just impressed with the change. And so this just shows we redid all of the tennis courts, we painted gates, we painted poles, we buffed the floors. At our golf course, we needed some major work done. And so it actually helped us out by no one being there. We were able to do a lot of work that we needed to do. One of our staff, and I want to kind of highlight her, if you see the "Today is a good day for a good day," in all of our restrooms and all of our community centers, she went around and painted all of the restrooms stalls. So for the girls and the boys. And so I was joking with her because I said, I can't go to the bathroom because I'm so busy looking at all of the art. And so you're going and looking at all what she did. And she did it all by hand. And she actually did it the whole time we were out through COVID. And so the pictures and the things that she did of words of affirmation are beautiful for both the men and the women's bathroom. And so it's just a lot. And this was a creative idea that they came up with to actually contribute back to the centers. And so it is, I tell them I'm their spokesperson because they do it. And, I'm only here because of the work that they do. And so I really appreciate them. And it's always hard to pick one. And so I have to, let them all know that they are much appreciated.
That's awesome. And what a great looking team. I mean, just looking at the range of things that they're doing here. And I just love that the bathroom art. In fact, that was when you sent these pictures, that was the one that I asked about, because I just think that is so good and it is uplifting. And, thinking about taking the message everywhere, including the restroom. I just think that is so awesome. And she's very talented. That's very pretty artwork. So congratulations, Mobile Parks and Rec team. And thanks so much, Shonnda, for talking about them today.
Thank you.
All right, Michael.
Thank you, Shonnda. I love the artwork, and I stole your approach to the team because I couldn't choose either. It was so hard.
You guys are making me look bad.
No. It was so hard to pick just one. But it's really the segment of the staff that are, at the front of what we do. They're out there every day, and the ones that are behind the scenes that no one ever really sees too. Every day they have a vision statement of bringing happiness and health and appreciation for the natural environment on a daily basis. And these are the people that do it every day. And I just have so much gratitude for all the staff and volunteers throughout the entire district, from the staff that kept, found a way to close down amenities throughout all of our park system in creative ways, and did it quickly to keep our community safe, but yet keep the rest of the parks going. And then how to turn that around on a dime because people were hungry to get on the tennis courts or back on the basketball court or back even on the playground. They did it, without question, knowing that they're coming into work and having to deal with the whole COVID thing personally as well as professionally. And they did it without batting an eye because they knew they were helping our community. Our IT staff that have, kept things going, our aquatics team that came up with Maggie and Courtney, and they came up with a system to keep our staff safe, but allow some happiness with coming to the pool. Our administration staff, there's Lou there with his mask on, and the administration team that kind of just keeps things working for me and keeping the business of the organization running. Our public relations team and communication team, I don't think any of us have ever had a team that have had to react as quickly as they've had to throughout this whole process. When you have a situation in a pool and there might be a COVID case and they have to react to that, or communicating now on a monthly basis instead of quarterly basis. Jenna and Ariane and Justin and her team, it's just exceptional. And then just the happiness of providing services for the camp this summer, it was unlike any other camp experience, but these kids, these staff, and our teens, our college kids that have come back to help deliver on these services, unbelievable. And then the staff that just took care of our animals and our aquatic life. They still had to be fed. They still had to be cared for. They still had to have their tanks cleaned. They did it every day throughout this whole process. So I'm just ecstatic, and I probably forgot a whole bunch of other team members, the golf staff that have had a golf season like no other, and hopefully it continues. But just so much gratitude for every single employee that we have here and every single volunteer. And on behalf of my board, they couldn't be more happy to have these folks on our team.
Awesome. And, thank you, Glenview team. I mean, I listen every week. We listen to you guys talk about these amazing folks, and it is no surprise that you make our jobs easier. It's really easy to share good news in parks when there's so many just amazing people that work in parks. So thank you all so much for that. That's just inspiring and awesome. Okay, so it is time now to take some of our audience questions, and we've had quite a few good ones come in. So let's start with this one. What is one of the most unique program/event pivots you guys have seen or completed, i.e. from in-person to maybe hybrid or full virtual? So thinking about the programs that you do, what would you say is the most unique change within that? Who wants to jump in?
I'll go.
Okay.
So many of the communities didn't have a 4th of July. They canceled their evening shows and their parades, and our community, did that too. But we found, through our volunteer group and through our staff, they got together and found a way to do a reverse parade. And we lined up throughout one of our largest parks, put the exhibits out there and the floats, and we had people scheduled throughout the day to drive through. It was the first piece of normalcy that our community probably had, where they felt like, it's definitely different. We're driving through, but we're celebrating Independence Day. We're celebrating as a community. It allowed the floats and some of the businesses that have been struggling to have exhibits throughout the parade. It was definitely one of the happy moments of this whole summer, and the catalyst for a lot of other creative thinking that has happened, and that led to how we opened our pools and how we did our camps and how we're doing our e-learning and our fitness center, and you name it. Hey, you just pull together and you ask people to, how do we do this and do it safely and commit to it. So.
Great. It sounds like a lot of fun. I know everybody looks forward to Independence Day, and the fact that you guys could make a shift and still make that fun for the community is just awesome. Michael or Shonnda, anything to add?
I think I'm sitting here and I'm like racing through my head to try to think of one. And I know the most popular one that we have that is being requested to do it for everyone is we do a senior bingo, which is outside, and they are in their cars. They come and bring out their bingo sheets. Right. And when they get bingo, they hit their horn. And so it is a very popular thing, and they win. And it's not big things that they win. It's the socialization of it. And so they call it out on the microphone. So everyone's in their car, they're in every other parking space. And what they do is, once you hit bingo, you hit the horn 2 times, they come over and check it, and then you win a little prize. And so we do that for the seniors, and we have the regular population is saying, can you please offer this for everyone, or can we come and participate, because they register out the parking spaces. And so trying to find another location so that we may be able to do it bigger, but that's one of the most popular ones that we have.
That is really creative. What fun. I can see how that would be a lot of fun for folks. All right, Michael, did you have anything to add to that one?
I'll just say that, I think that it's been fun to watch the creativity, especially on the virtual programs that we've done, from how to make a baseball glove to, safe exercise for seniors, to all these things. But one of the things that I've noticed most is that, and it's really unprompted. I mean, nobody asked a lot of, but a lot of parts of our organization just started putting together videos to music about like their facilities and really kind of marketing what they do. And a lot of it was behind the scenes stuff, like at our aquarium and things, and it's just really fabulous stuff, really well done. I get these videos, I'm like, who made this? It's like, and it's just been really cool to watch. I keep saying, it's like, put that up on the website, that needs to stay there, and it's, it's just opened up, I think, a lot of our creativity in ways, and, in some ways given our staff some time to really think about a little outside the box where they're not able to do that normally. So I've loved the videos. I've loved the, you know, how those have come together and really showed, like, you know, what's happening at our facilities, and they had a lot of fun with it, and so it was good. I enjoyed that.
That's fun. Love it. So here's another question. How big of a role do volunteers play in the success of all your programs right now?
I can chime in because I would say it's very important. What Jody was referring to earlier is our programmatic partnership process that we have, because we depend on them totally, really, to do a lot of our programming. And so it was, you know, really encouraging and, you know, making sure that they felt safe and that we had a safe environment for them to come in, but also to be able to record them so that it could still be shown to the public and provide programming. So volunteer has a lot to do with what we do. Even on the athletic side, we wanted to do some social distancing sports. So we did a lot of clinics where we could not do contact sports. And so we were doing track or baseball or some, you know, agility camps and things like that. And so that is totally ran from volunteers. And so the ability to have access to the volunteers, and like you said, when you ask, they come, and being able to provide that services, it is because of volunteers we're able to do what we do.
That's great.
I would say on the volunteering end, I mean, it's, we're not able to do it the scale that we normally do, but I would just echo that, you know, I think most of the volunteering has come when there's been a need that is, been identified and put out there. We haven't had any problems finding people to do those things. Normally our volunteers are our coaches and our, a lot of our team managers and things like that of all of our sports and fitness programs. But since a lot of those programs aren't running right now, I think it's been just a different way of volunteering. Getting food out to the residents has been a big part of that, and a lot of organizations and throughout the city has been using volunteers to set up, drive-throughs for picking up food and things like that. So there's always room in our world, and we never have, we always need more volunteers than we usually have. So it's I hope that's not lost through this, because it's something that we're really going to need to hold ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah. Mike McCarthy, anything to add there?
I just echo the same sentiments of Michael and Shonnda. Volunteers are a key part of our organization. We do about 17,000 hours of volunteer work throughout the year, and the volunteers have augmented the staff that are at the farm, feeding Glenview, the staff at the Grove. So we couldn't be doing what we're doing right now without the volunteer work.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. We have just a couple of minutes left, so we do want to tell you about next week's show. We have another great lineup for you. So you can see there, it is September 10th at 1 o'clock. They're always at 1 o'clock Eastern, and we're titling the episode The Way Forward. So there is the place that you can register, playcorps.com/events. Check out all the other great learning events that are there. We've got some resources for you and some great best practice programs at playcorps.com/resources. The next line there, you can see the certificate of completion. That is the email, docs@email.pandadoc.com. I want to make sure that you all have that address, because a couple of folks have had issues with that email address not being whitelisted, and so the certificate goes to spam. So if you're not getting your certificates, please do check your spam folder and make sure that that email is whitelisted. And then at the beginning, Jody mentioned a study, and that is a link where you can find that study. I just happened to find that one real quick. I'm sure there's others that you can Google, but theconversation.com has that Twitter study on how people are using parks and playgrounds to cheer them up. So we wanted to provide that to you as well. We'll also put that in the follow-up email. So if you don't have a way to screen snap this, or you don't want to write that all down, that's understandable. We'll send that out. But check out this great lot of folks that we have for you next week. We are so very excited. We do hope that you'll join us, and we hope that you'll share the good news with everybody else that you know, within your departments, within your teams, other Park and Rec folks. Please help us in sharing out that news. So with that, Jody, you want to take us out?
Well, I just want to say to all three of you, you're dynamic, you're our leaders of our country and our field. And most importantly, not only are you the best of the best, but you have heart. And thank goodness you are stepping up to share with our country the good news, because it's there. We just have to communicate it. So thank you all so much for your valuable time. Great news.
Thank you.
You're
Cheers,
welcome.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Cheers, everybody.
And we will see you on the next show.
Everybody be safe.
Be safe.